All right, so greetings, bonjour, and wagwan, everyone. I want to first and foremost give thanks to our ancestors and the ancestors of this land for allowing us to be here today. I'm going to run you through a quick presentation on this special project, Emancipation Park Public Art Project for Emancipation Day Memorial. My name is Quentin Versetti. I'm the director and founder of AstroSankofa Arts Initiatives. Joining us today will be Kareen Weir, who is one of the public art managers, and also Kenesha DeBiro, and also some of our board of directors. And quick 1-2 about us. We are an arts organization that is the only federally incorporated B3 organization, meaning that we're Black-led, Black-serving, and Black-focused, artist-led, not-for-profit organization and artist collective focused on public intervention through an Afrofuturistic and Pan-African lens in Canada. So we're one of a kind, and we're trying to fill this gap. We launched in 2021, and we worked with over 100 Black creators, providing different types of collaborative art opportunities, skills, exchange, and mentorship. And then in addition to that, we support Black artists by providing them with different artistic public art, public engagement opportunities, not just public art, but public engagement opportunities, support with public art projects for management to concept and production, prepare Black creators for the new public frontier of Web3, and provide mentorship and portfolio developments. So that's just a small synopsis of what we do. You can see our TTC project that we did from 2022 is the picture here. And in the image, we have board members, also staff, and community partners. And so for this opportunity, AstroSankofa Arts Initiative, in collaboration with the City of Brampton, invites Black artists and creators to submit examples of the artwork, plus a working concept for the creation of a permanent outdoor memorial artwork to go at Emancipation Park in Brampton. And so this is what we're here. And a little background on the project. It came out of the City of Brampton after they unveiled the Emancipation Park. The city designated $50,000 towards an artistic memorial to be included in the park. And after 6 community consultations sessions from 2022 to 2023, the city staff recognized that they would be faced with a major delay if they were to try to manage the public art project themselves or to make a public art call. So in efforts to ensure that the project could happen within this year of the decade of the last year of the decade of United Nations declared Decade of People of African Descent from 2014 to 2024. We, AstroSankofa Arts Initiatives, being the only 3B organization in Canada with the relevant credentials, certifications, and insurance, was contracted by the city to manage the project and to ensure the scope from artist selection, design, and engineers to fabrication and installation. Our role is to help offset some of the costs of the project to ensure quality control, community involvement, along with providing mentorship for a Brampton-based artist and celebrate their ancestors, our ancestors. And so some of you might be wondering, what are some of those costs that we'll be saving you? One, insurance. We will be covering whoever the selected artist is and the mentee artist from Brampton. We will be covering them under our insurance. We have a 4 million CGL coverage, and then we also have a 2 million, professional liability, just to make sure everyone's safe and taken care of. And then under that plan, we also have additional subcontractor coverages as well. So that usually runs you around $5,000. So we're saving you already on that aspect. We are WSIB certified, which obviously costs money. We have in-house engineers as well, so we can save costs on that. We have also in-house designers. So again, we're saving costs on some of the shop drawings that you would need to complete to get an engineer drawing. And yeah, and then we have consultants as well within our organization and our collective. So a lot of skill sharing and a lot of opportunity sharing and learning opportunities. This is a letter that just speaks on Dixie 47 Sports Park being changed to Emancipation Park and what that entails. You can find this online on the City of Brampton's website. And if anyone's interested, we can provide the link to that as well. But essentially, it's outlining a report from the media relations speaking on this monumental occasion to celebrate our ancestors and celebrate the community. And so this public art call is in 2 stages. The first stage is essentially you would submit your application. You have to email info@astrosankofa.org, and one of our team members will respond to you and send you a link to the form. The reason why we did this is to avoid any spams, and also, as a way to also keep track of who's invited and who's included. And being mindful that this is meant for our community specifically, so it's also a way to kind of help to filter any fish baiting, as they like to call it, or race baiting, as they like to call it. For a lot of public art calls, you also get a lot of spammers and bots. So this is also a way to just streamline that process, to make it easy for the jury members. And essentially the stakeholders, essentially the applications will be juried by Brampton Black residents and stakeholders and will be scored based on submitters' connection to the project and region, artistic quality, file formatting, adherence, project's compatibility, comprehension of Emancipation Day and Emancipation, concept merits, engineering requirements, viability, and feasibility. And so once you submit your application, you will move on to the second stage. The second stage will be consistent of either 2 to 5 artists being shortlisted. And what that entails is that we would work with the artists to further develop the idea, and then we present it to the community. So in the second stage of this call, successfully shortlisted artists, creators, and/or artist collectives will have the opportunity to work closely with professional engineers and designers from the Black-led arts organization, us, AstroSankofa Arts Initiatives, and they will assist to conceptualize a design and fabrication outline that will eventually be presented to the Black community of Brampton. And so in this stage, the mid-step in this stage is that you will present these ideas to the community in a community consultation, and there will be opportunity for the community to give feedback, right? Maybe you might be missing something. Maybe you might have something that doesn't sit well with some people, and you might need to adjust. So maybe there's color palettes that could be adjusted. So essentially, it's an opportunity for the community to be involved in the process. Also, during that time period, we will also get a better sense of the mentorship that we can also offer Brampton artists, Brampton Black youth artists, and emerging artists as well. So this second step is really important. As oftentimes public arts projects are made in asylum, and often are made inside of in a cubicle almost, right? So sometimes artists don't get a chance to engage with the community, and sometimes the community don't get a chance to actually engage with artists. So this is a way that we can do that. And so compensation of the project is, the total budget right now is $50,000. The budget covers all costs directly associated with the artwork, including artist fees, fabrication, not foundation, I apologize, it's not including foundation, shipping, installation, any engineering and professional services. We have some of the insurance covered, but if you want to get personal insurance, we encourage you to do so. Permits, travels, and other incidental and production expenses. Shortlisted artists or artist team will receive $500 each to create detailed proposals in stage 2. And as mentioned, AstroSankofa will cover insurance costs, and the city of Brampton will cover the footing, concrete pads, and associated contractor costs for those services. And AstroSankofa will cover also concrete footing and pad drawings, engineer reviews and approvals, technical reviews and approval, and drafting services. And so here are a couple of images of the park itself. And so we identified 3 spaces And this is something that I think is really important, especially as it relates to any public art call, to understand the space, as especially with the park not being readily accessible to the public. And so with these free spaces, it was based on the grade that we identified in this region, also being clear of the trees, or what they call the crown or the drip of the trees, especially since these trees are young, so they obviously will mature. Um, and then also based on positioning of the park as well. So we have this spot right here, which is right at the front, on the east south side of the flags, and then going a little bit more to the northwest on the opposite side, spot number 2, and then far up, spot number 3. Due to the time frame that we have, is more likely that we would be gearing towards spot 1 or 2, and spot 3 tentatively would still be open, but we'll see. It's all based on what you guys propose. And so here are some other images of the park. One of the things, as I mentioned, is the park having very soft grade, mainly because it used to be a forest, so the ground is very soft. Also, there's a lot of pooling that takes place throughout the seasons, so this is something to be mindful of. But of course, we would take care of that with a footing. You can see the flagpoles here, and I also want an example of one of the structures that are already in the park, which is for the cricket field. So to prevent, some of the cricket balls flying into the parking lot. And so you can see it's a quite big structure. So just to give you a sense. So this is location 1. As I said, it's on the southeast side of the park. And so you can see that there's quite a bit of room. And essentially, we kind of mapped out spaces that will give you at least 10 feet by 10 feet in terms of footprint space. So, think big, but obviously think within budget. And this is spot number 2, just on the opposite side of the flagpoles. And this is spot number 3 by the gazebo. Now I want to take you into the 3D Google Earth view. Anyone who has requested for the application would have got also a link to the Google Earth site, which will allow you to also see the location a little bit better. A second, let it load. All right, so if we zoom in here, we can go 3D. You can get a better sense of the park and the different spots. It's supposed to be markings. I don't know why the markings are not showing up. Maybe because of, but essentially, spot 1 is here. Let me see if I rotate. So spot 1 is here. You can see the trees. So in between the trees. And then there's trees back here, but obviously Google Earth doesn't have them. These trees are also mature, so you have in the summer some nice foliage. Flagpoles will be here. Spots number 2 is here. And then spot 3 is right by the gazebo, or the shade structure. There's also trees that are here as well. There's about 6 trees in total. In this corner right here is a gutter, like a water gutter. So if any artists are interested in this spot over here, we would actually try to build a walkway and give enough space for people to be able to walk around the art piece. All right, so selection process. So the selection process is pretty straightforward. We'll be assessing based on submitter's connection to the project, artistic quality, file format, and adherence concept compatibility, conceptual merit, relatability, comprehension of Emancipation Day and Emancipation, engineering requirements, installation requirements, maintenance requirements, viability and feasibility, and the budget apportionment. So how well are you utilizing the budget and being mindful of, things can happen. So taking into account contingency, for example. As mentioned, the submissions will be reviewed by a selection panel, which is made of community members. Right now, we have four jury members confirmed, 2 elders, 1 young person, and 1 professional. And we might tentatively have a total of 10 jury members. And the jury members will be announced next week. And so let me just quickly take us through the application itself. So, second. As yeah, we tried to make this process as simple as possible for everyone. So some people would have got either the Google form or this application, but they're both the same information and they're both going to the same place. So same information that's on the website is at the top, but just to remind people of Wagwan with the Wagwans. You can also download the pictures if you want. And it's a pretty straightforward application. Provide your full name, your legal name, and provide your name as you like to be promoted, phone number, email. Do you identify as Black, Caribbean, and or African? We would appreciate for you to upload a high resolution headshot. And again, file formatting. It is important that you follow this file formatting process so it's easier for the jury members to find your content that you submit, and so it doesn't get lost in the ether of all the submissions that we have going to be receiving. Already, we have sent out 50 applications as of today. So if you don't file format your stuff properly, you get lost. And so we explain file format for each submission. So artist name _ headshot, photographer credit, if applicable, year photo was taken, and the file extension. So example, Quentin Rossetti _ headshot _ taken by Rasta Futurist _ 2024. Include your social media link, a link to your online profile. If that's the same, then you can just put the same link. Give us a short bio. Don't tell us your whole life story. Just, short synopsis. What are some things that are interesting about you and your practice? Let us know if you live in Brampton, your connection to Brampton. And then also, we're interested to know about the mediums that you might be interested in and your different practices that you engage in and are in already. And if there's any of those practices that you would be interested in using towards a project. For example, I do digital art, but maybe I might want to do sculpture, or I also do sculpture. Maybe I might want to do a painting, et cetera, et cetera. We want to know, what does emancipation mean to you, right? So this is a very important question, as we want to make sure we have like-minded people and people who get it on the project. And then we would like for you to share 2 to 5 examples of what your work looks like that is closest to what you would ideally want to contribute to the project. And so again, please honor the file formatting process, and I'll go over that a little bit more very shortly. And then in this box, we want you to write the details about the files that you submitted. And again, just follow these instructions: 1, title; 2, date creation; 3, dimensions; 4, medium and media; 5, commission details if applicable; 6, associated costs with the creation of your work; And then 7, description, short description, by the way, no long deggy story. And then 8, relevancy. So what is the relevancy of what you submitted to the actual proposal that you have, or the idea that you have, or to Emancipation Day? What is its relevance? So you can see an example. I filled that out, an example of what you can put down. And then here you can upload your idea, your rough ideas that you might have. And again, these are the ideas that would help us to determine how we can work with you, how can you be a part of this project, and yeah, and feasibility. And then yeah, we ask you to contextualize the work in a couple of words, no long deggy thing. And then please explain what materials you are interested in using and why. For your idea, we ask you to give us a sample budget. We provided in this form, we have a spreadsheet. In the other form, you have to upload a spreadsheet. And again, please honor the file formatting process for your spreadsheet file if you're uploading a spreadsheet. And then that's pretty much it. And then these are just basic copyrights, basically saying that we're not going to steal your work. We're not going to use your work if you are not selected. We honor people's copyrights and we honor people's intellectual property. So everything will be scrubbed once this project starts. And so just letting you know what your rights are in terms of what you want to be shared and what you don't want to be shared. And yeah, and if there's a dispute that arises, we have suggestions on how we can solve conflict. For me, this is really important, and I really wanted to include it in applications, as I've seen my own work being stolen from a call of submission, where people have taken my ideas or they gave my idea to somebody else. And so we just want to ensure artists and ensure to the public and to the community that we're not about that life and that we're not going to do those things. And so again, the rights also let you know that you also still have rights. If you don't want your image to be promoted, you don't want certain things to be promoted, then we'll honor them. And then, yeah, you sign the thing. So file formatting. Please, again, honor these file formatting process. It's not hard to rename your files. As you can see, following the same example, my file name, Quentin Vassetti _ headshot taken by Oldie 2020. And then for file formats for your artworks, the title, your name or the organization name or collective name, the number, and if this is just multiple angles of an art piece, or if there's multiple versions of the same art piece, you're gonna label it not as 1 and 2, but 1A and 1B. If that makes sense. So let's say I have a sculpture and I want to have the left side and the right side. Left side might be the main image, so that might be 101A, and then the right side will be 012, right? And then the next artwork will be 02. And so again, this video will be up online. So if you want to reference back to this, if you don't know what to do, then it'll be available to you all. But on the rubric, this is a part of the scoring. Also, this is about professional practices as well. So when the project starts, there's gonna be a lot of files being exchanged back and forth. So following file formatting and file formatting naming is really important for engineers and also versions of works, right? And being able to distinguish what was the first version made, what was the edit, what was the one that's actually engineer stamped, et cetera, right? So this is just really about putting in professional practices and exercising professionalism within our community and creating a standard, industry standard, more specifically. And so I want to share with y'all a budget sample, right? $50,000 is not a lot of money, and it can go by really quickly. Mainly because we are WSIB and we are also a not-for-profit, and we are part of the Canadian Worker Force, Fair Worker Wage task force, at least minimum 15% of a budget, a public art budget, has to go to artists, right? So when you look at that, that's already $15,000 out of $50,000, right? So that leaves you roughly around $35,000 to play with for everything else. So you can see how a simple public art piece can go, how $50,000 can go really quickly, from contractors to cement pouring. If there's additional cement that needs to be poured, transportation and fabrication, all these things are costs that we will work out. But we also want you to be thinking about these things in your proposal, which will also help us to understand if your project is viable or not. And then obviously contingency. And then one of the things that I want to note is HSTs. And HST, make sure you, if you charge HST, think about HST being in your final cost. So if each artist is getting paid $4,000 out of 4 artists, then it'll be $4,000 total with HST included. So then you just do the reverse. So again, we outline some of the components and some of the parameters of this project. So, you know, you can ensure that you have a good application. So again, we're looking for the structure to be sound and viable, require less than $30,000 to fabricate. Again, because 15,000, do the math. Conceptually meaningful to emancipation and the Black community, suitable for installation or identified memorial location within Emancipation Park. See the appendix, which is the 3 locations that we identified. Designed to be installed onto a concrete footing and pad, so meaning that we are not, once a concrete pad is there, we're not digging into the earth again. We're only building on top of it. So you got, you know, ideally think about something that can be bolted down. And then require less than 3 full work days to install. And also the park has no electricity. And so just be mindful that your work also should have no electricity and should be absent of lighting features. So I want to show you an example of an art piece, and how, you know, in terms of writing about your artwork can look like. So again, we have the title of the artwork, A Place of Innocence Amusement, Kew Gardens or Key Gardens. Again, the file formatting, we include the file formatting. Let's follow the correct format. Data creation, fall of 2017. Ideally, we would like to know the date, the month, if possible, when the creation was completed. Dimensions, we ask that you round the number up and give meters or centimeters in addition to feet or inches. So for some people who on a jury may not be quick with meters and centimeters, it's good to give them also feet and inches. Medium, water jet cut steel, commissioned by the City of Toronto. Associated costs, $45,000 to fabricate, which obviously means that the project was a lot more money. And then they have a description. The art piece contains a quote from the landowner, Joseph Williams, who designed and named the garden in 1879. After the Kew Gardens in London, it was meant to be designed, designated getaway location from the business of the city and a good space for families and little ones. Boom, simple, shoot. Relevancy, the creative use of storytelling and using a quote that gives context to the park name and purpose. So again, it's suggesting that this art piece could be ideal if someone had this in the portfolio, because maybe they want to use a quote from Marcus Garvey or a quote about emancipation, maybe from Bob Marley or some type of freedom fighter, and maybe they want to include that in their cutout, right, in their design. Last few things, tentative project timeline. So we're already have the first 2 crossed out, February 18th and February 29th. So next step is submission window closes at 11:59 p.m. No exceptions. If it's late, if it's 12 o'clock, if it's 11, if it's anything after 11:59, we are not accepting. No exceptions at all. March 11th and 13th, notifications will be sent out to the applicants. And then Thursday, March 21st, will be the first community consultation. So roughly you have a week. We would have a week with the finalists to finalize your ideas and then present it to the community. And then from there, depending on if there's any changes that need to be made, April, May, we'll start fabrication roughly, and then we would aim to have the installation a few months later in July. All right, so that's essentially all the information I have to share for y'all. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. One of the challenges I will make mention and be transparent about is installation, as the park will be very busy. So one of the things that we have to be mindful of when it comes to whatever it is that you're installing, again, about the viability. In terms of about the viability, essentially, the reason why we have a limit on the days that it'll take to install is because the park is being used by regular civilians and who have permits and who are already going to be active in the park, children, et cetera, et cetera. So to minimize the liability, and also we can't really dig too much into the park, so we have to limit the type of excavators and type of construction vehicles that we can have in the park at the time. It's not, the parking lot is not a really big area, and also it's gravel, so heavy duty things will take up space and also can risk damaging other people's vehicles. Questions about 3 engineers that you mentioned. Do we include that cost in our budget? No, you don't need to include that cost in your budget. But I would say it depends on the technicality of your design, right? So if you think your design is quite complex, maybe you want to hire an engineer, an external engineer that will then work with our engineer, right? And so that could be everything from a civil engineer. There's different type of engineers that you can get. So if you wanted to contract a subcontractor engineer to make sure your designs are sound, then put that into your budget. But we do have an engineer that we work with. Thank you for your question. Yeah, and you can imagine, like, we're saving you guys a couple of thousands, by having engineers on our team. So yes, that's a way that we can, keep some more money towards the actual building of the project and towards artists.
I have a question.
So yeah, go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. My question is, are we exactly looking for a sculpture, or are we looking for like a mural? Like, what would be?
That's a great question. So on the website, we did provide a couple examples. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. And a lot of the community folks really actually liked the idea of the panels that we did back in Toronto. So let me pull this. So we did these panel installations, and a lot of people in the community like those, right? So the beauty of these panel works is that it can be any medium, right? It could be a painting that we digitize and then have that printed on aluminum, right? It's called ACM.
Okay, perfect.
And ACM is like pretty much indestructible. Like
I got you. So it's like for me, I do a 3D, but in terms of like sculpting, I mean, it's not I don't do it, I do it. So if I give you something that is on a piece of paper, flat, you would be able to make it into like what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And well, the ones I'm looking out, there's certain cutouts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that would more go into I guess a lot of the details and so on. So I just wanted to ask if it was just sculpting, but since I know that, that was my question.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah, and someone else asked, is the artist limited to being paid 30%? So no. So if your fabrication is, let's say your fabrication, for example, if you look at this artwork here, you zoom in. Oh, well, you can't really see it too tough, but it costs only $15,000 to make the panel, right? So let's say we had multiple panels. Let's say we had two panels, right? Two panels is not going to cost $15,000, right? Two panels is going to probably at most cost $20,000 because the extra, the bulk of the money is the installation, right? So the actual structure itself cost about $7,000. So 7 and 7, 14,000, and then another $5,000 roughly for the installation. But for them to install the same thing doesn't is not additional cost really because it's about the same process. So if your entire project costs only $20,000, then that's another extra $15,000 that can go towards artist fee. So um so yeah, it's kind of a thing of working smarter, not harder. If someone is doing a mural, obviously that's a lot cheaper than to do a sculptural installation, for example, in terms of like bronze casting or something. But all of to say we don't discourage either or, but I'm just saying to answer this question that was just sent to me, 15,000 is not the limit of the artist fee.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we're going the sculpture routes and it's, I guess, relief, or in the example that you have here on the screen where we have those cutouts, etc. You said that you have an engineer. What is the engineer like in terms of like how far does the engineer's role like stretch? And at what point do I need to like outsource, like, go somewhere like a foundry or to get something, as you said, just fabricated? Or if I wanted to go the sculptures and I wanted to weld something, do I have to outsource that and include that in the budget to bring the form
Yes.
together if I'm not gonna be the one to weld?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question, Kareem. So an engineer is only looking at the sound structure of the design and making sure that it's safe and that it's feasible, right? So this is where the shop drawings come in, right? So they're gonna look at the shop drawings and maybe say, hey, engineering wise, like the build wise, this is not viable. So you need the engineer stamp of approval before anything can get fabricated. So in terms of what you're saying, in your question, you would get the engineer stamp done, saying that your designs are good to go, and then you bring it to a fabricator. So that might be, well, foundry is technically not a fabricator, but they do provide the materialization of your work, right? So a foundry will make either the aluminum or the bronze casting or the ACM, etc., right? But then you still need someone to uh, install the work or have the work installation ready, right? So uh, it depends, right? Some fabricators are one-stop shop. So there's Punch Clock Metalworks, there's a few of them. But essentially some fabricators will do everything, right? So they'll give you a whole package of installation, materialization, and transportation, for example, right? Those are obviously the ideal, but the reality is there's a little sometimes that's a little bit more on the higher price end, right? So um, so what we would do is we would work with the artists to kind of help them understand these different variables, and you know, whoever the selected artists are, shortlisted artists are, we would help them to kind of be like, okay, this is where you need to tighten up, this is what you need to think of before we present to the community.
One more question. How tall would the project have to be in terms of height? What's the tallest it can be?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So there's no real height limit, but the engineer will let you know. Um, the engineer will let you know about weight balance. And so making sure that's not top heavy, and that based on your footing, right? So based on how it's being anchored, because again, we're not going to be digging into the ground. We're going to be securing things on top of concrete, on top of concrete pads. So it will help us to, the engineer will help you to kind of determine or suggest ways to determine how to best secure your piece, but then also make sure that it's viable, which what I mean by that is the park is a very open field, right? And so there's nothing really shielding it from the wind. So you're gonna get a lot of wind and stuff like that, right? So making sure that the structure itself is strong enough to endure the wind, right? But obviously that's possible because you have the flag poles there. So I would say the height limit would be the flag posts, right? Which is about I think it's about 20. How tall the flag post? Yeah. So it's about 22 feet.
Mm.
And then in meters, that's 6.7 meters.
I had another question.
Mhm.
So I'm still pretty new to sculpture, so I'm contemplating, like thinking about a sculpture piece for the spot, right? But I
Mhm.
haven't necessarily outsourced fabrication before. Like, what is that process like? How do I go about that? Do I present them with a drawing, and then they give me a quote? Do they tell me about, like various materials that they use that I could potentially do the work in, or do I go to them with an idea of the kinds of materials that I'd want to work with? Um, uh, I guess, does the difficulty in terms of like just of the making increase the price? Like, just intricacy. I don't know if that will increase the difficulty of actual the fabrication. Does that increase the price? Well, I assume it would. But what is that process like?
Yeah, so every fabricator is different. And so each fabricator would have different requirements. Like, um, what's a good example? So, for example, like Saunderson monuments, they just need a sketch, right? All they need is a sketch, and then they go off from that. But depending on how busy they are, will determine also their cost to actually map it out for you. And so the idea, the real idea is like as much as information you have ready, the better, because then that also helps to reduce that back and forth, and then
I'm
also it
sorry,
will
could you
limit.
say that last line again? I didn't hear you.
So by having as much material ready, like sketches, different angles, and then dimensions, will help them to give you a quote faster and to tell you um, the specifics of the project and scope of the project sooner. Yeah. So like so yeah, again using Saunderson monuments. So Saunderson monuments will be like, okay, yeah, like this might only need to be anchored with a rebar, right? Or this might just need to be anchored with resin or epoxy, right, into the ground. Or this might just need to be bolted into the ground. And they might look at your piece and be like, okay, this is gonna weigh maybe a ton, or maybe it's 500 pounds. So we don't need a big crane. We can just, use manpower. So all those things are things that they will take into account. Also, they will look at how much material you might need, right? So again, dimensions will help them to figure that out. Like, okay, well, based on what you just showed us, we might need 20 pounds of bronze, or 20 pound, or we need 10 sheets of aluminum to be cut, or whatever material you're using, or we might need to import some stainless steel or corten steel, for example. And then also they'll look at, like, okay, are there any painting that's required, right? So those are all different things that they will look at. For the panel, again, using the panel example, that was a local fabricator who essentially handled everything. So he got once we got the files ready, boom, we sent it to him, and he got it printed in Montreal. Montreal shipped it over. He made the frame himself. He welded it. Boom, boom, boom. He sourced the material, everything. But once you gave him the sketch, he already knew Wagwan, right? And then he just made the design. We corrected it. We worked with him to correct the design. Got it, sent it to an engineer. Engineer was like, "Yep, frame looks good, no issues." And then boom, fabricated. And it took about a month and a half. And then oh yeah, sorry. And then installation, he installed it with yeah, it was just him and then the next person. And the size of the panel is 8 feet tall. And so it was just him and the next man, three people, sorry, um, to install it. They dug a hole using I forgot what it's called, but they used like a tube thing. Um, Set the concrete, and then bolted it on top, and then that's it. One of the things I do need to mention is that the city of Brampton requires at least 30 days notice for the concrete pad to be laid, which is also why we won't be it's being suggested. I'm suggesting that we avoid digging into the ground, right? Because once a concrete pad is laid, it's a lot of work to break the concrete and then go back into it, right? So that's why we're trying to have things above ground. But if you look at the shade structure, it's the same. It's the same ordeal. And even the flagpoles are also so yeah, the shade structure
One
is
more
not going
question if
into the ground, it's
possible.
above ground. Yep.
Yes, I want to know, like, for the design and stuff, right?
Mhm.
And the size and so on and the manufacturing. If we're given because 50,000 is the budget, right? If we're given 50,000 and there's money left over, do we return it to the city?
No, that's what I said. If there's money left over, that you can pay yourself from that.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah. So that's why
Okay.
one of the earlier questions was, is the artist limit 30% of the budget? And I'll say no. That's just the minimum.
Yeah, because if I wanted to say do a project for 20,000 and there's 30,000 left over, and I would have to, I
Yeah,
think you said I have to
exactly.
pay other artists and so on, right? Um, what's ever left over? Like, say if there's a 20, just for example, 25,000, what do I do with it?
Yeah, you do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
Buy your mom something nice.
Okay then. Yeah, because I'm just checking in, and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
appreciate that.
And the because I know that for sure mine's isn't like a 3D sculpture, but I think that if I go through and if I win this to work with your team, I think that they could kind of bring that to life in some sense, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and stuff. So I just kind of want to ask about that. I think I'm gonna sort out the dimensions, and when we're describing the, like, say if we submit it in on paper, does it have to be scanned? Do we take a simple photo of it?
Yeah, it's up
How
to you.
Okay, so if I just take a simple photo with my phone, then it's good, right?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
as long as it's clear and it's legible, that's what
Mhm.
matters the most.
Okay, perfect. And take for instance, you're talking about the young gentleman that, like, take for instance the thing that was printed and that he had, right?
Mhm.
There for the first one, the picture that you showed us with the man and the woman in it, you said that he pretty much dug the hole, did it himself, and so on. Um, I wanted to know for that. I know that the city is gonna lay the concrete, right? And so on. So I wanted to know, like, if they lay it and we do something like that, would we be able to install it ourselves, or do we have to pay people to install it? If we could do it
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. I would say like we would discuss as a team,
Okay.
and we would look at what was be the actual requirements to install yourself.
Hmm.
Um, we would probably advise for a professional to do it.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
but depends on the complexity of whatever it is and the safety, right? So, um, it's better to do something right one time than to do it
Right, right.
incorrect and then have to fix it, right? So, also,
Yes.
if you don't have the experience, then that's opening up liability that
Mhm.
we don't want or need, right? Especially for
And
this project.
it could be any, take for instance, the artwork could be anything that captures basically Black history, emancipation, a symbol, whatever it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't say as far as Black history, but specifically thinking about emancipation, um, specifically. Yeah.
Okay
So
then.
what are some things that has to do with liberation? And there's a list of things that we have that we identified from the community consultations. So we had where is it? Everything there. Stuff. Black liberation, empowerment, unity, resilience, the legacy of the UNIA, connection to Marcus Garvey and the Caribbean emancipation legacies. So these are some of the ideas that came out of community conversations.
Okay. And like I said, would I have to capture the African continent, or is it just what's there on the Caribbean? And
It's up to you. I mean, Marcus Garvey is Pan-African, right? So he was for all Black people, right? So I mean, depends on the angle that you want to go about it.
okay then, cool.
Mhm. All right, beautiful people. It's the top of the hour. If you have any other questions, feel free to email info
Yes,
at
one question.
astrosankofa.org, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. It's not myself; it's going to be one of my colleagues. So please be patient with us. We're coming down off of Black Employment Month, so some of us will be a little slow to respond. Again, um, don't be afraid to ask questions if something's not clear to you or you need support. This is again a community project, so we want you to feel like you're part of the community. France, Wagwan. Yeah, I'm mute.
Question. For I had
Yeah, I'm here,
sent
by the
a
way. Yeah.
I had sent a message to send me the link directly to the city website. I sent it by email.
Okay.
I haven't received anything yet. So would you be able to
You
send
talking about
me
for that? Are you talking about for the application or for the
the,
information on the project?
the application?
Okay, I'll look into that for you.
Yeah, I did message on this chat my name and
Okay,
my email and my phone number. So if you could text it to me, that would be good. If you could email it to me, then that would be good as well.
okay, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, or even over social media, whatever you guys can do to get me the exact link to the application, I'll definitely appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, man, no problem. Fancy, no question.
Oh, no, I have no questions. I've been listening. It's perfectly straightforward.
All right, cool. All right, well, everyone bless up, enjoy your night. I look forward to see what comes out of this. And who, yeah, I'm looking forward to whoever it is that I get to work with and look forward to building with y'all. Chris, did you want to say anything? Chris from the city?
No, sounds great. Nailed it.
Okay, all right. All right, bless up. And this will be uploaded very shortly onto our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow AstroSankofa on all social media platforms to stay in the know and to be in the know, and make sure you live AstroSankofa. Make sure you breathe AstroSankofa and know that you are AstroSankofa.
All right, thank you, man.
Have a good
All right,
evening.
take it easy.
All right, yeah, have a good evening too. Bye bye.